Hi everyone, welcome back to the MNS Cards YouTube channel. My name is Michael. I am a full-time Pokemon card seller, and today we're going to talk about the PSA price increase. So everyone has already made a video about it, so I figure I'd throw my 2 cents in right now. And I spend a lot of money at PSA. That's one of the primary drivers of my business, is buying raw cards, grading them, and then selling them. So I figured that I would just kind of give my perspective and how I plan on handling this. So just to give you an idea, I'm on pace to give eBay about $65,000 for card grading this year. So, I mean, that's more than I made my first year out of college, which is kind of crazy that I'm spending that much just on card grading at PSA this year. At least I'm on pace to. So, yeah, this has a pretty big impact on me. If you don't know what happened, PSA no longer has the TCG bulk grading tier for $18.99 a card. They've consolidated everything into a bulk grading tier that is $25 a card. So a little over a 30% increase on grading fees, which is kind of crazy. But I mean, PSA has just been backed up so far, and that's what they decided they had to do. Kind of thinking about how did PSA get to this point, and I think that everyone knows that Pokemon market is doing really well right now. There's a lot of demand for grading, but I think what really was the breaking point is the explosion of One Piece. So One Piece TCG has been going up like crazy, just seeing parabolic gains on all things across the board for them, and a big part of that is the One Piece PSA graded cards. So I think everyone has been sending more and more of those in, and I don't really follow the sports market, so I don't know if that had an impact on this at all, but I think that just TCGs has really put PSA in a spot where they're not able to get enough cards graded, and they're taking in more than they can, so their backlog's growing, and they thought that, hey, we need to increase prices and kind of slow the stream of cards coming in so that we don't get to where our turnaround times are a year. And for anyone that was around during 2020, then PSA, like, they shut down, and I think that they had grading, their cheapest tier was like $300, and they could not keep up, and they pretty much just shut down their entire business for a while and then slowly opened it back up. And I don't think we're at that point. I think there were a lot of things going on with shutdowns and everything during that time that led to that. But right now, there's just so much demand for PSA grading that they can't keep up, and they decided that, hey, we need to increase the price. So I'll talk a little bit how I'm going to handle it. I'm going to continue to send my 50 cards every single week to PSA, or around 50 cards. It's going to be more expensive, sure, a little bit more of a pain, but I just have to be more selective on my buying. Maybe some cards don't make sense with the $25 grading tier that it did at $18.99. And that's something I just have to bake into the cost. So when I look at cards, if a card is selling for $60, I usually think, okay, it's going to cost me $20 to grade it, so it's going to be $85 when I'm all said and done on my all-in costs. So now I just have to think, hey, it's going to be $85, and just work that into my math as I'm buying cards. And I mean, that's all you can do. There's a lot of people right now who are really upset about it, really mad at PSA, but here's the thing, it really doesn't matter. We can be as mad as we want, but it's not going to change. Right now, the market is demanding PSA graded cards. It has the highest liquidity. That's not going to change. You may even see some cards increase in value from this because it just doesn't make sense to grade them anymore, so people aren't going to be sending them in. And I think that it's going to take a while for that to work through the system. There's a lot of people right now who have graded cards at PSA with an $18.99% grading fee, or $18.99 grading fee. That's where I'm at. So when I get these cards back, my mental math is my cost is $20 a card on these, and I generally sell for market regardless, but I have no reason to be holding on to these hoping to squeeze out another $5 worth of grading. So I don't think that there's going to be any major market shifts on this. I think what could happen right now is, what is PSA going to do in the future? So in the past, when they've raised prices, it's been followed by more price increases, and that's kind of what has happened over the last 2 years. I think they were doing like $12.99 specials, and then they just slowly creeped up, and now we're at $25. I think the last increase was about 6 months ago. And the way I think about this is it more likely that PSA is going to go to $30 or $20 in the next 6 months? And with the 30th 30th anniversary of Pokemon coming up. I think that there's going to be a lot of cards that people are going to want to be grading. And I think that, I mean, just Ascended Heroes came out right now. That's a really big set. I think the biggest set Pokemon's ever released. There's a lot of cards in there that it would make sense to grade. So I think that PSA is going to continue to get a steady stream of cards coming in. I really don't think that this is going to slow down much. Maybe some of those low tier cards that if you miss, you're really going to get punished. But this, I mean, a $6 increase for most of the cards that I grade, it still makes sense to grade them. I'm going to be making a little bit less, and that's unfortunate, but you know, that's what the market gives me. I can sit here and whine and complain about it, or I can just deal with it, and that's where I'm at. I'm just going to keep pushing forward and do what makes sense. And if you are someone out there who is grading, this may deter some people who haven't graded before. So, I mean, that's only going to be a benefit to your grading business. Like right now, I think that if someone was considering sending off to PSA and they were going to spend $19 a card, now all of a sudden they see $25 a card. I think that that's going to keep a lot of people out of the grading process. So, hey, maybe that's going to drive more demand for already graded cards, but I really don't think it's going to be something that's very noticeable. I think that's going to be maybe on the margins a little bit of an increase, but nothing crazy. But I do think that is something that may happen from this. But the big thing I want to encourage everyone to think about is if you've already had a stack of cards that you were planning on sending on grading, I would not hold on to them expecting that this is going to go to $20 anytime soon. I mean, I still have a stack of cards from 2022 that I thought I was going to get $10 grading on, and they're cards that I just plan on holding for a long time, so I haven't worried about the price increase, and honestly, I'm never going to get $10 grading again, and if we do, the hobby is going to be in such a bad spot that it's not going to make sense. And I honestly don't even know how PSA is going to unwind this price increase. How do they take their price from $25 to $20 without upsetting everyone? Like anyone who's going to be sending in at $25, if in 2 months they drop it down to $20, they're going to be very upset that they sent in at the higher tier while people are continuing to send in at $20 and they have cards sitting there at $25. So this price increase is going to be around for a while. I think their turnaround times right now are like 4 to 5 months. So I think in the next 4 to 5 months, there's zero chance that PSA opens up $20 grading or $18.99 for everyone. There may be specials. I think that's how they're going to implement a price decrease in the future, is they'll probably open up a like $20 special for a month and gauge interest and then slowly bring it down over time. But I think for all of 2026, $25 is going to be the base grading fee for bulk, and maybe a special later in the year if the demand really isn't there for grading. But with where we are right now, I don't see a big decrease in demand for grading. Who knows? I don't know how this is going to affect CGC or BGS. Those companies are kind of their own issue, and they have their own things going on. CGC is fine. I use them when I think it makes sense. I've never used BGS. This isn't going to drive me to go and try things at BGS. With the things that I have, it still makes sense for me to send them to PSA, pay the extra $6, and then just wait for them to come back when they do. If I'd send them to CGC, I'd probably be punished. I might break even, make a little bit, lose a little bit, but it makes sense for me to continue to send to PSA, and I think it's going to make sense for a lot of people to continue to send to PSA, so I don't think this is really going to change much in the near term. But one thing that is kind of fun to speculate on is, how is the general market going to handle this? Is PSA actually going to get punished by this because people are just going to full send all their cards to try to avoid another price increase? I don't think that's what's going to happen. I think there will be a pullback, but it would be kind of interesting to see, hey, in the next 2 weeks, is everyone just going to chuck out all of the cards that they have because they don't want to be stuck further back in line and then be stuck with paying, who knows, $30 a card in 2 or 3 months? I really don't know what's going to happen. I don't think anyone really does. PSA obviously believes that increasing their price is going to decrease the submissions, so that's what they chose to do, but who knows? It's going to be interesting to see. One thing I think about is, why did PSA choose to increase their prices versus trying to expand grading volume? And I know that I've recently talked about how I've had PSA submissions come back from New Jersey, Florida, and California, so they're probably tapped out on grading space. I'm sure that at in California, Florida, New Jersey, like those are pretty high cost of living areas where it's not easy to just open up more space for grading, train graders, get all that ramped up. And then what happens if there is a fall off? Like in 6 months, if there's not a demand for grading and PSA has done all this expansion and they're going to have to start downsizing, like that's a really scary time. I understand why PSA wouldn't want to go that route, and they just thought that, hey, a price increase will avoid us from overexpanding our grading capacity and get us and avoid getting us into trouble in the future. But it is funny. I don't know if anyone has seen the South Park with Cartman Land, where their slogan is "There's so much to do, but you can't come." That's kind of how PSA feels right now. Like they know they're the best. They pretty much have a monopoly. They're buying other grading companies, and they know, like, hey, we own this market. We can pretty much charge whatever we want because the market demands it. And for right now, that's true. Who knows how long it's going to last, but right now in this current market, PSA's top dog. They can charge pretty much whatever they want. I mean, what happens if they start charging $50 a card? Who would not send at $50 card? Like that's such a high barrier to entry that any new card coming out and even just continuing to more graded supply onto the market, like they could probably do it and there would still be plenty of demand there. I don't know how that would really affect PSA. That would be a really wild time in the market, but we've seen it before years ago when the lowest grading tier was in the like 300s and they were doing lotteries because people just wanted to grade cards so bad. So yeah, wild times, and who knows what the future is going to bring. There is one quick thing that I wanted to show you that I'm going to be looking at myself. So this is GameStop.com. They do have a PSA grading service, and from what I can see here, it is a $25 grading fee, just like PSA, but it looks like pros get $5 off. Max insured up to $500 and estimated turnaround time 75 business days. So that's something that I'm going to look into, and I'm going to have to check and make sure that that $5 off is actually $5 per card. That's kind of what I read it as. And I looked at Chat GPT, and that they said, like, yeah, it's $5 per card. It's not like $5 off the shipping fee, which kind of looks like right here. So I'm going to be looking into that, and that may make sense for me, may make sense for you. But if I can be paying $20 a card versus $25 a card at 50 cards a week, that's going to definitely add up over time. So that's what I'm going to be looking into over the next day or so. The two GameStops closest to me have closed down, so I'm going to have to track down where the closest one is and kind of go from there. So yeah, interesting times in the market. I'm curious, leave in the comments how you're going to be handling this. Really curious to see it. If you got a graded card order out last night, congratulations. You just saved yourself $6 a card. I wish I would have done that. But, you know, that's just how the market goes sometimes. So with that, I've got things to do. I'm sure you do too. So get after it and have a good one.